Can you guys hear the bells in the background?
Bells?
Yeah,
I don't hear bells.
the church down the street from my house. It's exactly 6 o'clock.
All right.
Bells?
Bells?
I don't hear bells.
No.
The church down the street from my house. It's exactly 6 o'clock.
Okay.
All
Looks like we are live on YouTube.
right. I don't hear bells.
No.
All right, we are live with the ladies Let's Go Fishing group. Betty Bauman in charge,
Looks like we
founder,
are
and
live.
I'm here in my house getting ready to do a little Zoom seminar on some offshore fishing. How's everybody doing today, ladies?
Doing great.
All right.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, how many people we have on right now, Betty? How's everybody doing today, ladies?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
You want me to
Oh,
go
give
ahead
me
and
a-
start?
Give me 1 second.
How many people we have on right now, Betty?
About 6. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
You want me to go ahead and start?
Give me 1 second here. Hold on.
Take your time.
I need to mute my. There, that's better. Okay, that's a lot better. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I had the YouTube was playing while I was speaking. So let's get this party started. Welcome everyone to the Ladies Let's Go Fishing virtual meeting with Captain Tony DiGiulian. We're going to be talking about Captain Tony in just a second. But the Ladies Let's Go Fishing mission is to bring more women into fishing or rejuvenate lapsed anglers while installing conservation efforts. And we have everything in the sun as far as fishing opportunities coming up. We have November 22nd and 23rd coming up this weekend, beach fishing in St. Augustine, and a optional golf cart tour of their beautiful Night of Lights. And we still have a couple openings for that, and it's all on our website at ladiesletsgofishing.com. Then we have the Islamorada Women's Sailfish Tournament in the Keys, January 30th through February 1st. And you can sign up as a team or as an individual angler. And we have charter rates, so we'll put together your team. We'll put together a team for you. February 21st, we have Hubbard's Offshore Fishing, and that is already sold out. That's in Madeira Beach. March 21 through the 22nd is our Fort Myers Inshore Weekend Seminar. April 17th to the 19th is South Florida Offshore Seminar and Fishing. We are working on a trip in Naples, Florida for bottom fishing. I'm working on the dates right now, and if you keep on our email list, you will hear about it. Then we have May 15th to the 17th. That's our Keys Screaming Reels, Learning on the Water in Tavernier, Florida. And that's for ladies that just want to get on the boat and do it. June 17th to the 22nd, we have Isla Mujeres, Mexico fishing. We did it this year, and it was wild. We released sailfish. We ran around. Isla Mujeres is like Key West, a little island outside of Cancun, and it's so much fun. We ran around in golf carts. We drank blue margaritas and things like that, and just had a ball. It's going to include a couple days of fishing, offshore fishing. Then we have September 12th is our freshwater bass seminar and Dania Beach at Bass Pro Shops. October 16th to the 18th then is our Keys fantastic weekend seminar and fishing in Islamorada with 2 days of fishing, 1 or 2 days. And we give away awards for the Keys events for just catching a fish. And then a lot of other awards if you didn't win. So almost everybody walks home with something. And we're working on, and I need to talk to Marianne about that, Venice, Louisiana trip for huge redfish. And if you want to spearhead a trip, let us know, because we're interested in Alaska, Costa Rica, Bimini, Bahamas, and elsewhere. I'm so excited to see so many ladies participating in the meeting and the raffle. We have people from the raffle from Rhode Island, South Carolina, Ohio, and more. So that's what's going on with Ladies Let's Go Fishing. We're going to go to Tony DiGiulian, and he's going to tell us about offshore fishing. We want to hear a little bit about your background. Tony works for Pelagic Gear and is donating a 150 gift card in the raffle, which we will do when he's finished speaking. And thanks, Tony. He's provided shirts for our online and on-site fundraisers. He also supports Captains for Clean Water and other terrific organizations. Okay, so then after Tony, we'll draw the raffle. And then at the end, I got to do record. Hold on one second. Give me 1 second.
All right. Well, thank you, Betty, and hello, ladies. It's great to see everybody tonight. I understand we've got about 17 or 18 people here on the Zoom, and then we're also live streaming on Facebook. We are going to try to, we don't have a lot of time, but we're going to try to get as much in 25 minutes or so as we can get in, maybe stretch it to 30 minutes if you're not bored yet. Can I get a real quick, how many people, I recognize a couple people, but how many people have seen me speak at Ladies Let's Go Fishing seminars in the past? I've spoken at them a bunch of times, and I've been supporting and helping Betty and her organization out for, I don't know, it's a long it's a long time, right? Betty's got to be 15 or 20 years, something like that at least.
Well, and we appreciate it. And you're an inspiration to all these ladies because you fished all over the world, including trips in Dubai. And I just can't even imagine the cool places you've learned different kinds of fishing in different countries.
So yeah, so I've real quick, I spent most of my younger adult life working on some of the top professional sport fishing operations in the world. Back in the day before there were resorts in Costa Rica and fancy marinas everywhere. So we traveled on our own bottom everywhere we went, through the Panama Canal, all over the Pacific, Venezuela, South America, and the Atlantic, and St. Thomas, places like that, back when there was only maybe 6, 8, 10 of us total traveling. So we had to be very self-sufficient. We had to all work really well together, look out for each other, and we pioneered a lot of the fishing that you know today when you see what's going on in some of these places around the world, where now we have fancy marinas like Marina Pez Vela and Capos, even Isla Mujeres, as a place Betty mentioned. It's near and dear to my heart. Even they have nice state-of-the-art marinas now. So really what I wanted to talk about today is, I don't want to talk so much about myself and my accomplishments. You can Google that and look all that up at your free time. But I wanted to talk, first of all, I wanted to say, Betty knows this, I've been a champion of women in our male-dominated industry or male-dominated sport since I was very young. I had my aunt and uncle, whose charter boat I worked on as a kid. My aunt was actually a captain and really, really good at fishing and finding fish. She was the first woman to ever be on the board of directors for the Shinnecock Marlin and Tuna Club back up in Long Island, New York, back in the day. And between her, my mother, my sister, and just all the very independent, intelligent, strong women in my family, I've been a champion for women to do whatever it is they choose to do with their lives. So that's one of the reasons why I support Ladies Let's Go Fishing so much, is because I think it's fantastic that you all are into this great sport that we have. And the cool thing about fishing is that anybody can do it. There's really no, men don't have an advantage over women in this sport. In fact, due to your intelligence level, you actually have, I believe, my experience throughout my career has been that women have an advantage over men, because you think a little bit more clear-headed than us men tend to think at times. So with that said, what we're going to talk about is just in general, my specialty was offshore fishing. So while I did a lot of wreck fishing and grouper fishing and stuff in my spare time, going in and out of marinas and in and offshore, Mainly I concentrated on the, you know, the mahi and the wahoo and the tuna and the sailfish and all the marlin species, things like that. Um, One of the things I like to tell people is that the more versatile that you can be in any given day that you're on the water, the better off you're going to be, and the greater the chance that you're going to catch fish, have a good time, and be able to make a day out of it, so to speak. So, and one of the things is you don't need a fancy boat, and you don't need a lot of fancy equipment. You can start out with the basics and kind of build on what you learn and how you progress. One of the things I like to tell everybody that doesn't matter whether you're a beginner, an intermediate, or even going into the expert field is what you'll find out is that in fishing, you're never going to know everything. You're always going to be learning. You should be learning something every single time that you're on the water. Every time you go to a seminar, read an article, whatever it is, you're going to learn something new. And fishing can be very overwhelming, the amount of information that you're going to be bombarded with, because there are so many different techniques and ways of doing things. And it's very, very important to pay attention to very small details. So, my advice is when you start this journey into the world of fishing, or even if you're already involved in it somewhat, is don't get overwhelmed. Take things little by little, learn something well first, and then move on to the next thing. But don't get distracted or overwhelmed by people telling you have to have this and you have to do that. You just want to take it at your own time and kind of build on things. Having said that, if we're fishing, when you get going down to these real fancy places all over the world and you're fishing for giant marlin on the Great Barrier Reef, or you're fishing for blue marlin in Virgin Islands and St. Thomas, unless you have your own boat and you're traveling there by boat, most of the time you're going to have charter boat experiences, and getting on the right charter boat is really the best way to learn stuff. But you don't need all that big heavy tackle, because um, most of the time, or all the time, a good boat's going to have all that stuff for you, and they'll teach you how to do it. When we're fishing here locally in Florida and we're just on our small center consoles or what have you, you don't need a lot of heavy equipment. I'm going to hold up a reel here. It's a very basic Shimano TLD reel. This is a TLD 15. They come in TLD 20s, 25s, 25Ws, different variations, but it's a very light, smaller reel that you can do almost anything with. Everything from trolling to kite fishing to bottom fishing, drifting live baits. It's just a matter of changing out your terminal tackle, which would be your leaders and your hooks and things like that, and what you attach to it. And you don't need to have 100 different rods and reels. This reel is right now set up for kite fishing. As you can see that little pink indicator here. But you can set this, you control with this type of an outfit. It's like a 20 to 30 pound rod and a 20 to 30 pound style conventional reel. This is called a conventional reel. It looks like that, as opposed to a spinning reel that looks like that. So that's the difference between the two reels. But conventional reel like this, very simple. I would suggest maybe you have 4 of those. Very, very helpful to also have one of these when you get these reels. Nowadays, they come in high retrieval rate. So every time I turn the handle, I gain between 3 and 6 rotations to every 1 turn. Very important in fishing. The faster I can retrieve a bait, or the more cranks I can get on a fish when I'm fighting a fish, the better my success rate is going to be all the way around. So if you are in the market for a conventional reel, I would try to go with a higher retrieval rate reel than just a 1-to-1, something like a 3-to-1, 5-to-1, or 6-to-1 retrieval rate on your conventional reels. But again, those reels are available in the not most expensive ones. You don't have to break the bank. The other thing is most really good local tackle shops, if you've got a good relationship with a local tackle shop, they all sell used tackle. If you're going to purchase some tackle from a local tackle shop that's got a really good reputation, they're not going to sell you junk used tackle. Most of that, all that tackle is going to have been gone over and reconditioned and lubed and drag washers and all that stuff replaced. Um, and so you can get really, really good equipment, um, used equipment, without having to buy brand new from a local reputable tackle shop. Another very important thing is in your fishing life, whether you're traveling to go fishing or you're just fishing in your hometown, is to start a relationship with your local tackle shop. Find out what kind of how the guy that works in there in the morning likes his coffee, or what kind of donuts they like or whatever, and go in there with a little offering and introduce yourself. And that's where you're going to get a great source of knowledge. And the better relationship you have with your local tackle shop, the more information you're going to be able to get on a daily, weekly basis. They're even going to teach you how to tie knots and rig baits, if you have the right type of rapport with them. So very important. Another basic reel. So I would have like four conventional reels on my boat, for trolling, live baiting, kite fishing, drifting baits. And then I would also have at least two spinning rods. You can have more if you want, but I'd have at least two spinning rods that are always rigged up, ready to go. This one here is a 20-pound outfit. It's got a pen spinning reel on it, your basic pen spinning reel. What is this one? This is a 6500 SS is what that's called. It's a very basic pen reel, really, really good durable reel. It's got 20-pound test line on it. I've got a little circle hook on it right now because it's rigged for pitching a live bait to a tailing sailfish. But at a very light leader of about 40 pounds, and it's just rigged and it's ready to go. Whenever you're out fishing, let's say you're trolling, you always want to have a spinning rod available with a hook on it, ready to go in case you see something on top of the water. A lot of times you're going to roll up on debris in the water. You might come up on a really, really diverse color change or current eddy or temperature break or a weed line, anything like that. A lot of times there's going to be fish around there, mahi, wahoo, other fish, and you want to be able to quickly throw a bait onto, even if it's just a chunk of bait, onto the end of your spinning rod and be able to cast out away from the boat to attract the fish and get a bite. So very important to have a spinning rod on the boat as well. The other thing I would suggest to have on the boat if you're going to be trolling or doing anything is a little bit of a bigger reel. This is another conventional reel. It's a Shimano Tiagra 30 wide. Now this is getting up into a little bit more of a heavy duty reel, but and a little bit more expensive. But again, it's a this 30 wide is a very, very versatile reel. I can use it from everything from a kite rod to fly a kite for kite fishing. But what you really want to use it for is you want to be able to, when you're fishing offshore, you want to be able to cover different water columns. So you want to be able to fish on the top of the water with your lures and your baits, but you also want to be able to get down below the water and fish 10, 15, 20 feet down while you're trolling. I don't know how many people have ever heard of a planer, but this is a planer, and it is basically a device that hooks to the end of your line, and because of its shape and how it goes through the water, the water actually catches the flat plane of this and pulls it down under the water as you're moving and puts tension on it. They come in various sizes. A number 4 or a number 6 are going to be your two most popular numbers of planer. I would start with a number 4 because it's the smaller and it's a little bit less drag. But the reason why you need one of these little bit bigger reels is because these planers put a lot of tension and drag on the end of your line, and you want to be able to have enough drag So you can tighten your drag lever here on the side of the reel, and you can push it up and tighten it enough so that you can troll at a 6, 7, 8 knots of speed with that planer in the water and not have line being pulled off the top. You're gonna we're not gonna go into how to use a planer, but I would say, because that's a whole hour-and-a-half seminar in itself, but I would say a planer number 4, the proper planer rod. If you're going into a tackle shop and you're asking about it, ask for a planer rod, a number 4 planer. And then you want to make sure that when you get your planer set up, that it's not an inline planer, it's actually a detachable planer. There's a special way that you have a bridle, and you hook these 2 little broken off, cut off swivels to the bridle. And when this is coming in and out of the water, I can actually remove it from the rod and reel, and it doesn't get in my way, and it makes it easier for me to reel in fish. Anybody have any questions so far? All right, so we're going to
Not yet.
All right, so that's kind of basic setup.
That's very informative so far. Thanks, Tony. You know, our
Doesn't-
sponsor is Penn, so I'm glad you showed one of their reels because they make
Penn's a great
quality.
company. Another important thing to have on a boat that people are kind of maybe don't put as much thought into is a gaff for gaffing fish if you're going to be taking a fish home to eat. But gaffs are good for a lot of things. You know, you got balloons floating around the water, other trash. You want to do a good deed and clean up while you're out there. Having a gaff that's at least 6 feet in length is a very important. I see a lot of people with they buy a very short gaff, and while they can work, a longer gaff, a 6-foot gaff is better because you want to be able to reach out a little bit away from the boat. One of the biggest mistakes people make in general, this gap between the head of the bite, what we call this is called the bite, just like a hook. The bite and the distance between the shaft and the point here, people tend to buy a way too big of a gaff. They go oversized. This gaff right here has got a 2-inch bite, and I use this gaff for everything up to yellowfin tuna over 120 pounds. So any type of a 20, 30, 40, 60-pound wahoo or mahi or kingfish or anything like that, you don't ever want to go higher than like a 2-inch bite on your gaff. If you have too big of a gaff head, you're going to end up gaffing fish that are too small for that gaff head, and they're going to end up flopping off the gaff, and you'll end up losing them when you get them to the boat, or you'll do too much. You do a lot of damage to the meat. And so if you're taking notes, a 2-inch bite on your gaff, 6 feet long, is what you want to have for a gaff on your boat. Very important thing when we're talking about gaffing fish. The biggest mistake people make is they get a fish close to the boat and they pull the boat out of gear and then try to gaff the fish. You don't ever, for any reason, want to ever pull the boat out of gear until after the fish has been gaffed. And the reason for that is when you're moving, even though that fish is hooked, you're pulling that fish next to the boat, and that fish is comfortable swimming along. And the more tired it gets, the more comfortable it gets just swimming along. As you reel the fish and it gets closer, it's now basically mimicking the same exact angle that the boat's going, and you can control that fish's head with the rod. You can lift the tip up, but you want to keep that boat moving forward and then reach out over the top of the head of the fish. You don't ever want to gaff a fish from underneath like this, in this direction. You always want to have the gaff head like this. This is the correct way. This is upside down. This is right side up, so that you can reach over the top of the head of the fish, right behind the shoulders, and gaff the fish that way. But don't ever pull the boat out of gear, because what happens is as soon as you pull the boat out of gear, you've released tension on the fish, and now that fish feels like he can swim any directions. And oftentimes, once that boat comes out of gear, the fish will swim directly under the boat or back into the engines, and you'll lose the fish next to the boat. happens every single day out there on the water. So it's a very important thing. One of the things I would encourage, especially here in South Florida, live bait fishing. Using live bait to catch bigger fish is a very, very effective way of fishing, and that could be drifting live baits. That could be having live baits ready to go, and you're trolling, and you get a bite, and you pull the boat out of gear right when you get a bite, and as you're still moving forward, you're quickly attaching live baits to a couple spinner rods and putting them out behind the boat. A lot of times you'll get multiple bites and bigger fish on that way. And then lastly, I would encourage all of you at some point to learn how to or to experience kite fishing, fishing with a fishing kite, which basically hangs baits, live baits or dead baits, but mainly live baits. It hangs them from a kite over the water in a vertical presentation. It's a very, very effective. It attracts larger fish like you would not believe, especially fish that like to feed on the surface. It's another very important thing when you're fishing to research the fish that you are going to be trying to catch, because every fish has a different biology, and knowing the basic biology of the fish you're trying to catch can be very effective and important in you actually finding those fish, catching them, or knowing what to do when you have them on. For instance, a wahoo has very, 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 very sharp teeth. So you're probably going to want to have some sort of a double hook rig or a wire trace or a little bit of cable down by your hook to prevent the fish from biting through monofilament. And then on the vice versa, the opposite of that is when you're fishing for sailfish, which don't have teeth, you want to go with a monofilament leader that's much softer and much less visible and allows your live bait to swim more freely. It's not that it's not that you can't use wire or cable on a live bait, but you want to make sure that whatever you're using, it kind of coincides with what's best for the fish that you're trying to catch. You don't want to the rule of thumb also is smaller is usually better. So most times people are using too big of a lure, too big of a hook, too big of a bait to catch the fish that you're fishing for. We have a saying in the business, professional fishermen, is that elephants eat peanuts. That's our saying, because you don't want to underestimate um, the effectiveness of a small lure. A lot of fish that we're fishing for, especially tuna fish species, whether it be blackfin or bluefin or yellowfin or albacore, any of the desirable tunas that we catch to eat, a lot of times those tunas, because of the shape of their mouth, because of the way that they eat and feed and their biology, instead of eating one big bait like a marlin would do to satisfy its caloric intake and its needs that way, a tuna would much rather find a large ball of very small baits and eat a whole bunch of small baits. So a tuna, if I'm fishing, and that would go for even a bigger tuna. So if I'm fishing for 70, 80, 100-pound yellowfin tunas, I'm using, a lot of times I'm only going to be trolling, if I'm trolling, a lure that's this big. This is very small. This is less than 2 inches in length. It's a very small lure, as opposed to a larger lure like this that I would use for maybe a marlin. Not that you can't catch tunas on these, and not that they won't eat them, but your odds are going to be much better if you're going for tuna fish a little bit smaller. We've got a saying that we take from the fly fishing industry, people that fish on the lakes and streams with flies, and it's called match the hatch. So if you find out if you, let's say you're going to go sail fishing and you want to catch sailfish, you're going to want to find out what are those sailfish in the area that you're fishing, what are they eating right now? Or is it a mullet run where they're eating bigger baits? Is it a lot of pilchards around? So on and so forth. And when you find out what they're eating, the species and size of the bait that's in the area, and that can vary from season to season, from area to area. Once you find that out, excuse me, you want to try to use a bait, a lure, a live bait, a jig, whatever it is you have on the end of your line to entice the fish to feed or to bite. You want to make sure that you are as closely resembling what they're actually eating right then and there in the wild out there. So the closer you can mimic what the fish are eating, the better off you're going to be on the whole as a rule. Now, however, there is always exceptions to rules. So if I'm trolling and I have a lot of small lures out there because I'm fishing in an area where I'm fishing for some, not fishing for an 800-pound blue marlin or a giant tuna. I will put one of these bigger lures out there, maybe on a bigger rod and reel. Just one, it's completely different from everything else I have out there. So sometimes a fish will attack something based on that because something looks totally different than the rest of the stuff's out there. And then the other thing is, especially when you're fishing around tuna and mahi, there's most likely a lot of times going to be a marlin or a bigger fish around that's eating those fish. And so you have a chance to catch one of those if you've got a bigger lure out there. Sometimes that bigger fish will come and attack that bigger lure because a bigger fish like a marlin wants to be able to be as efficient as possible when it feeds. So if it can get one really good meal by eating one big fish, it would rather do that than expend all the energy it takes to corral a whole bunch of smaller fish. Now, in the case of sailfish, they're very unique in the billfish species because sailfish will actually work in teams and they'll use their sails. And I'm sure if any of you are interested in fishing and have watched any videos on YouTube or the IGFA, or there's just so much content out there now. There are hundreds of videos of sailfish and striped marlin for that matter, but sailfish in particular, working together and what we call balling bait, getting all these little baits into a very tightly compacted ball just below the surface, and then they take turns going through that ball of bait and attacking the bait fish and eating the bait until they eat one by one and they eat the entire bait ball. So very, very important to kind of get to know the species of fish that you're going to fish for. The other part of it is also knowing what type of temperature your fish that you're trying to catch enjoy the most. It varies at times, but a lot of times the temperature will kind of be the same for a lot of fish. But if you're out fishing and trolling around and you're fishing in water that's, let's say, 85 degrees or 86 degrees, you can troll around with the best bait and the best lures and the best everything all day, and you're probably not going to get a lot of bites, especially if you're not observing any bait fish on the water or on your depth machine, or you're not seeing any birds. You want to be able to, if you have some knowledge about the best possible conditions for the fish you're catching, you can know that maybe you're not going to stop your boat right there because the temperature is a little bit high and you don't see any bait around, and you'll run an additional 30 minutes or an hour in one direction or the other until you start seeing with your eyes, physically seeing, oh, look at that, there's a temperature break. The temperature's down to 78 degrees here or 77 degrees here, and there's a lot of bait, and I see a bunch of flying fish and there's birds around. That's when you want to stop and start fishing. I can't tell you how many times, especially men, will waste their time. They get out there and they think they immediately have to put baits in the water and start trolling around, and they'll just troll for hour upon hour upon hour with no bites, and not taking into consideration that they're fishing in what we would call a dead zone, or a place because of the temperature, the water color, what have you, the lack of current, all these particular different things. There's not going to be any fish there to catch. And at that point, it really doesn't matter how fancy your boat is or how much money you spent on your equipment. you're not going to catch any fish if the fish are not around. So you want to do some research before you go fishing. Again, local tackle shop comes in real handy, but kind of find out what temperature the water's at, and look when you're out there on the water, make sure you're paying attention, looking for color breaks, looking for temperature breaks, looking for eddies, and you want to make sure you have some kind of current. If you don't have current, that's probably the biggest killer of a fishing day is when you get out there and there's no current in any direction, north or south. Out here, out front in South Florida, we like to have a north current is the best current for us with the Gulf Stream going to the north, but from the south moving to the north. But even a little bit of a southerly current is better than no current at all. So you want to make sure you have a lot of current. And again, these if you're trolling, one of the best ways to find fish is to fish small lures. These are just some of the ones I have out that are just very small lures that you can troll on. You don't need heavy tackle to troll on them. You can troll them on a 20 and 30 pound outfit. But when I troll a lure, I can move a little bit faster. And you got to remember that all these fish in their natural habitat are very, very, very fast. They can swim 15, 20, 30, 40 miles an hour for short periods of time with little or no effort. So you're moving at 6, 7, 8, 9 knots is not very fast. It might seem like it's fast to you as a human on the top of the water while you're trolling, but it's not very fast. So if I'm fishing lures, I can troll at a little bit of faster speed and I can cover a lot more territory. And therefore, my odds go up of me actually finding something to fish to, whether that be a piece of debris in the water, a weed line, a temperature break, all those things I talked about, birds, whatever it is. If you're trolling lures to start out your day, excuse me, you have a much better chance of covering. You're going to cover more ground, and therefore your odds are going to be that you're going to find something. And any of those fish that you're trying to catch can easily attack and catch a lure that is going at 7, 8, 9, 10 knots. It's pretty effortless for them to do that. I cannot. We actually do a type of fishing here down at, well, that's everywhere now, but Florida, we kind of perfected it, and in the Bahamas, and we call it high-speed wahoo fishing, where we fish like a bullet-nosed larger lure on braided line on a heavy tackle, and we use these big weights, inline weights, and we're trolling at 17, 18, 19 knots. I mean, we are hauling the male, and we catch wahoo, especially wahoo. We catch everything, but a lot of wahoos, they love it. The faster, the better. And when that lure goes ripping by at 17, 18 knots, they cannot help themselves but to have a reaction bite and attack it. And that's really the most effective way right now. If you were just trying to stack meat on the deck of your boat, that would be the most effective way right now to fish for and catch wahoo in the Bahamas would be high-speed lure fishing, and it wouldn't be uncommon to put 6, 8, 10, 15 wahoo on the deck over the course of a tide change in an hour and a half or 2 hours. So don't be afraid of going too fast, but be more aware of what do your lures behind the boat look like at the speed you're trolling. So what that means is you don't want the lures jumping out of the water. You don't want them rolling over the top of each other. You want them to be moving through the water smoothly, making a really good smoke screen, making lots of bubbles, causing a lot of commotion, but tracking well in the water. And different lures, depending on the shape of their head, will have different effects and will be more or less effective at various speeds. And the same goes for the opposite, is you don't want to be fishing too slow where the lures are just kind of blob in the water, not really doing anything, not making noise, not making commotion, not making bubbles. So that's something you want to really pay attention to, is you want to try to be able to troll at least, when you're trolling lures, you want to be able to troll at least 7 to 8 knots. And based on that speed, put lures behind your boat that are going to look the best behind your boat. And you can not only the style and shape of the lure will have an effect on that, but also the positioning of the lure, whether you put it close to the boat or further away from the boat. Different lures are designed to perform at their best at various distances behind the boat. So that's something else to really keep in mind. And it's all that is by not just general knowledge that you're going to get at the tackle shop and by reading, but you're also, the cool thing about fishing is a lot of what you're going to learn is trial and error. And so when you're out there, you're putting out different things and you're trying different things and you're taking notes, whether that's mentally, but I would always say keep a logbook of some kind. Very, very important to keep a logbook about everything from which direction the wind was blowing, what was the water temperature, what was the sea state, did you get your bite on an up sea, down sea, or beam sea, troll, just anything you could possibly think of that went into your day, even if you don't catch any fish. Tides, when the tide was, moon, when the moon rise, moon set, or moon over and moon set is. Sometimes the moon is right above your head in the middle of the day. All those things, the more information you have in a logbook, if you keep building on that, you can go back in that logbook and you can actually, like a puzzle, start putting pieces together. Oh, look at that. That was this happened and that, and you can, and then you can kind of deduce from there, and then put everything into kind of a much more tighter, cleaner package, so that when you go out fishing, you have some knowledge about, hey, it seems like we get a lot of bites on the down sea, and our left long has really been active, and types of things like that will tell you, kind of dictate to you what you want to do and how you want to do it. Anybody have any questions?
I do.
Go ahead.
I know we don't have a lot of time, but especially in Florida, South Florida, can you kind of go over a little bit for us, whether we're inshore fishing, offshore fishing, even, beach fishing? What is your philosophy about moons? New moon, full moon, quarter moon, half moon?
So the moon, that's a great question. The moon can have a big effect on a lot of different things. In a place like St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands, which is the blue marlin, for years we called it the blue marlin capital of the world, we would fish. The full moon was the most important thing, and we would fish 5 or 6 days leading up to the full moon. We might take the full moon, actual full moon day off, and then we'd fish 4 or 5 days on the backside of the full moon. Those were our best days. That's not, when you're fishing just in general out here, that's not as important. Although a lot of people don't like fishing on the actual full moon. But hey, listen, if that's the day I have to fish and that's my day off and I want to go fishing, I'm going to go fishing on it. And I can tell stories about where guys told me, oh, it's the full moon tomorrow, you're not going to catch any wahoo. And I've caught 7 wahoo in a day on the full moon. So I wouldn't be so much worried about now. Sometimes you are going to have a harder time getting bites on the full moon because it's lighter at night. Fish can feed more. Sometimes they'll be full the next day, whatever. But it wouldn't deter me from going fishing. More importantly, is the moon rise. So when the moon first breaks the horizon, when the moon is right, what we call moon rise, that's when it coming breaking the breaking, just like the sun. When the sun rises, it's breaking the surface there. And then when it's directly overhead, that's called moon over. And then when it comes down on that other side and it's going down, those areas, like, so let's use this, you'll see my hand come up. So that area right there, moon rise for about an hour, 45 minutes or so to an hour, that's going to be a really, really active feeding time for anything, even a deer out in the field. That's going to be a very active feeding time. When the moon gets up here and it's like in that little between, just as it gets to be straight overhead and on the other side of it, that's going to be another little period of time, an hour and a half time period where Very important to have baits in the water and be where you want because it's going to be a natural feeding time. And then again, when it comes down here, just that little time between where it's just starting to break the surface and go back down again. Um, that can be a those are all very good times to catch fish. So what you'd want to do is make sure you're in the right place. It has good current, the right temperature. You see bait, stuff like that. Like in other words, when the moon is about to break the surface or it's about to be moon over, that's not the time to strategize to pick up all your stuff and run for an hour. You don't want to be running during a prime bait time. You want to be in a location fishing. Maybe if the moon is over here somewhere, that's when you want to run. Or if it's over here somewhere and it has already been risen, it's already up a pretty good ways, but not up that's the time like, hey, we haven't been getting bites. I don't like where we're at. Let's pick up and run. But I want to try to make sure I'm in an optimal area in those three different moon times. In general, as far as a moon phase, I would like to fish 7 or 8 days prior to the full moon and 7 or 8 days on the backside of the full moon if I was forced to fish uh, based on the moon phase. Although I've had really good fishing when the moon is just completely non-existent as well. But if I had to, your time is limited. You want to research time and when you're going to you only have a certain amount of days or time to go fishing, and when you're scheduling that, that can be a very important thing. I always like to try to schedule fishing days where I know the moon is going to be breaking the surface and up overhead in the middle of the day, um, and not at night.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
What's the best way, for, say you're the angler and somebody else is on the gaff? What's the best way to guide the fish so it's easier to gaff? You leave it in
Well,
the water, or what do you do?
so, yep. So, good question. One person's on the reel. One thing that helps is having wind on leaders, or if you don't have a wind on leader, that your leader is less than, it's maybe 3 4 feet long. If you have a swivel that you're not going to be able to reel through the reel tip, you don't want that leader to be 30 feet long. You want to be able to get that fish up as close to the boat as possible without having to have a third person or somebody reach out and actually grab the leader. um, so if you can do that, especially when it comes to any of the eating fish that we have, kingfish or wahoo or tuna or mahi or any of that. Um, so wind on leaders or shorter leaders, and then you want to try to, just like I said, keep the boat in gear, the anglers reeling, keeping steady pressure. You always want to keep a little bit of a bend in your rod. You don't ever want that rod to be straight up and down because that means you've lost tension. So you always want some tension, and um, you want to try to keep the fish's head in the water. So if that means I got to lower, if I'm starting to get closer and closer and my rod tips up high, like a wahoo, I want to try not to lift the head of that mahi or that whatever it is, anything. I don't want to lift that head up out of the water, because a lot of times when I lift the head out, the fish will shake its head. And when he does that, he's trying to spit the hook, and it's much easier for him to do that. So I want to try to, if I have to, as the fish gets closer to the boat, I might lower my tip. I want to try to keep the head of that fish just under the water, definitely at the surface, so I can my gaff man can gaff him without having to reach down under the water, but more than an inch or two. But if I keep that fish's head right under the water and keep him on a steady motion, just moving, the fish will remain way calmer, and you'll have way less incidents at the side of the boat. Some of the fish are either lost right in the beginning, usually, of a fight, or right at the boat. Those are the two. It's not that it can't happen in the middle of a fight, but most of the time, the fish are going to come off the hook either right in the beginning because somebody didn't reel fast enough or keep tension, or somebody did something right at the end. So very important to stay calm. Mainly, be very calm at the end when you're gaffing. That answer your question, Betty?
Oh, that was a very good explanation. Yeah, because sometimes when people aren't experienced, they don't know what to do, and they, naturally want to pull the head of the fish out of the water.
Yeah.
So
It's,
it's good for
it's
them to
being,
know to keep that fish in the water.
yeah, and I can tell you on that note, being calm, cool, and collected is going to be your best bet. Now, you'll see videos where people are yelling and screaming and doing all this stuff, and I guess it makes for good entertainment. But I can tell you that the best top fishing teams in the world that are being paid the most amount of money to win tournaments, catch fish for their clients and the owners and whatever, those crews are the most, you're never going to hear them yelling at an angler, shouting, screaming, swearing. Not going to happen. The best crews are very, very calm. Their voices are kept you can hear them, and they may raise their voice in urgency at times, but there's not going to be anything out of control emotionally. It's going to be a very calm situation. Now, once the fish is either released or tagged or it's in the boat, hey, jump up and down, shout, do a little dance, whatever. But the calmer you are when you're fighting the fish and getting that fish close to the boat, the better off you're going to be. Nowadays, everybody you'll see wears a headset with a microphone, and that's so that the captain and the deckhands and the anglers, everybody can communicate in a very calm manner.
Okay, ladies, here's your chance. Let's ask them some more questions. We've got a few more minutes.
Yeah, I have one. When you are catching sailfish, marlin, things that you aren't obviously going to gaff, that you want to enjoy the experience and release them. Most of the time, most of us are not going to have an offshore boat that we're going to do it ourselves. We're going to be on a charter boat.
Yep.
But what is the proper way to release them? I know when I caught my striped marlin, it threw up its stomach.
Okay, so a couple things with that. One, all billfish have the natural ability to turn their stomachs inside out and throw them up. And that is so when they get their stomachs, they'll eat a big tuna or whatever it is they're eating and they swallow. They'll first thing they do is they grab it, then they turn it around so that it's pointing head. And now you can see videos of this. It's really cool how they do it. But they'll turn a bait around, even if it's a black marlin, it's 800 pounds eating a 20-pound tuna for a bait. They'll turn it around head first, and then they'll swallow the entire thing right down head first. And basically, their stomach acids and all that are what, digest the meat and everything. But when they're done, what's left over is a bunch of bones. And so they'll throw their stomach up purposely in order to clean their stomachs out and get rid of all the garbage that's in there. So most likely when you're fighting a fish and the stomach comes up out of his mouth, especially if you're using a circle hook, which you should be using at all times, unless you're trolling lures, but any type of dead bait or live bait for bilge fish, you should always be using a circle hook. Most of the time, that's just a reaction that they're throwing up their stomach because they're trying to do whatever they can to get rid of what it is that's annoying them. It's not I'm not saying it could necessarily be the greatest thing ever to happen, but it's not something to be overly alarmed about. What would be more important is if the hook was actually in the stomach lining or something like that, which used to happen all the time when we used J hooks. But now that we use circle hooks, that rarely happens. Most of the time, that is uh, a, a natural reaction to throw their stomach up. But when you're releasing a billfish, one thing for sure is I'm a member of an organization called keepfishwet.org. We educate people on the proper releasing of all types of fish. The number one objective when you release a fish is for that fish to live and to be able to spawn again, create more fish, or to be caught again. And if it dies 2 or 3 days after you released it, that's what's the purpose of releasing it. So number one of all at all times is no matter how much you want to get a picture, never ever ever bring a billfish or any large pelagic species meant for release, including a tarpon even. Never pull that fish out of the water. We know from science now and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on satellite tag studies and drone studies and blood samples and just on, that when you pull a fish out of the water like that for a variety of reasons, everything from their uh, putting unnecessary weight and having all their internal organs get smashed together to removing slime from their bodies that protect them from disease, to even oxygen deprivation. When you pull a billfish out of the water, even for 10 seconds or less, you're increasing the mortality rate of that fish by as much as 60 or 70%. Most likely, that fish is not, the majority of the time, that fish is not going to have a good result. And we actually found that those fish, while they swim away and look like they swam away well, a lot of those fish are dying 2, 3, 4 days after they're released. And we know that from satellite tagging and following them. So you want to be very careful with that. Do not let a crew on a charter boat take a fish out of the water to hold it up where everybody's standing in the back, all with their arms around it. And most often what happens is the fish remains out of the water for 20, 30, 40, 50 seconds. And if that happens, that fish has almost no chance of survival when you release it. So keep the fish in the water, boat moving and forward. Make sure you don't have to remove the hook. If the hook's easily removed, there are dehooking devices. Every charter boat should have a couple different ones on the boat. It's something you can ask before you charter a boat. And then you can they'll take the hook out, but if the hook's in an area where it's going to cause more damage than trying to take it out, or if the fish is very active next to the boat, it's going to be smashing its head up against the side of the boat or its bill. You don't really want to do that. So you want to cut the leader is very, very close to the hook, as close as you possibly can, and then then let the fish go. A lot of times, if the fish is tired, you want to hold it next to the boat with the boat in gear, with the fish upright, one hand on the bill, one hand in front of the dorsal fin, and you just want to swim it next to the boat for a few minutes prior. Let it calm down, let it regain its composure, get its adrenaline calm down a little bit, and then let it go. There's a lot of factors involved in a billfish or any fish that's being released surviving. If you do everything right, the survival rate is somewhere up around 98, 99%. So I would encourage you to go to keepfishwet.org and read about what they have to say. I'd go to the Billfish Foundation, billfish.org. That would be another organization. And even the IGFA, the International Game Fish Association, every one of those organizations has information published on proper release etiquette and techniques. And it's very, very important. You know, in the Northeast, the striped bass fishery that was almost destroyed commercially in the 70s, which they put a moratorium for many reasons, not just catching too many, pollution and other things as well. But and then that striped bass fishery, they put a moratorium on it, and it came back to be very, very vibrant fishery. Is now in danger again of being in trouble because we're killing more fish releasing them than we were when we used to take them out of the water to feed, because people, especially the big breeders, the fish that are 30, 40, 50, 60 pounds, that's a really prized catch, everybody wants a picture of that fish out of the water. And we know from science that particularly striped bass is one of those species that just does not do well when they're taken out of the water. And so we're killing tons of fish that are breeding fish, more than they're actually being caught commercially, are dying being released because of improper release techniques. So it's very, very important. And with the number of people that are actively involved in fishing and how many hooks are in the water anywhere around the world at any given time, while in the past we may not have had as big as effect as commercial fishing on the populations of fish, at this point in time, there is no question with the efficiency and the number of boats and people fishing, we absolutely, a recreational fishing industry, have a huge impact on the viability of these fisheries, and we need to protect them. So very important to learn as much as you can about the proper way to release a fish. And I'll leave you with one more thing is whenever the big commercial fishing industry and people who, or PETA for that matter, anybody who's trying to attack the recreational fishing industry and take away our rights to go fishing, the first thing they do, including the commercial fishing industry, is they get all these videos and pictures of people pulling the fish out of the water prior to release. And in Washington, D.C., when they're lobbying to get more fish, get us off the water, they show those videos and say, look, these recreational fishermen and women don't care about the environment. They're just killing fish unnecessarily and they're wasting a resource. We should be catching that resource and feeding people with it. So every time you do that and get that ego photo and you post it on Facebook or Instagram, somebody's watching, and that's like giving the enemy ammunition to destroy your livelihood or the thing that you love the most. So keep that in mind.
I have a suggestion,
Thank you.
because, say you're catching your first sailfish ever, and you came down from Ohio, to ladies, let's go fishing or whatever, and you want a photo. What I've seen, and I'd like your comments on it, but sometimes you can get the mate to hold the bill of the fish, put your head over the side of the boat, and have somebody in front of you take a picture. So
Absolutely.
and that way the fish does not have to come out of the water, and you have a photo of a lifetime.
That's right. And all that has to do with the proper way of catching and releasing a fish. And all that information is available in various organizations that I mentioned will tell you how to do that. And most boats, I would say, that even when you're chartering a boat, I mean, that's a very good sign of a red flag. If you're looking to charter a boat, a good charter boat you should be able to ask these questions, and they should be able to answer professionally and say, absolutely, this is what we do. Because with GoPro cameras and selfie sticks and rigger cams, and all these boats have cameras everywhere you could imagine. There are a lot of ways to get really good pictures of the fish in the water, and a really good boat will let you actually play a part in releasing and reviving a fish, where you're actually put some gloves on and get over the side and are holding on to that fish and letting that fish, helping to revive the fish and letting it go.
Well, thank you for that. Ladies, are there any more questions? Because I thought this was very informative. Every time I listen to Tony, I learn something new.
Thanks, Tony. It was wonderful.
I appreciate it. And thank you all very much for listening to me. And if there's Betty knows that I'm always available. She's got my information. I work for Pelagic full time now. I'm the tournament director for our 3 tournaments, and I do a bunch of marketing as well for them. And that's my full-time job now. But I used to have a consulting company that's what I did. I taught people all these different things, and I'm still, especially for Betty and her people and you all, if you have, she's got my email and my number and all that. So if you do have some questions, I'm not going to spend 6 hours answering 50 questions, because I got a lot on my plate. But I am happy at any time to guide you in the right direction and to put you in touch with the best charter boat if you're going to Costa Rica, even as a club, if you're going to go and do group trips or whatever. I'm happy to help guide you and give you my advice on that, so that you get the best possible education and have the best experience. Because after all, the most important thing is having a great time with friends and family and enjoying the ocean and all the gifts that being out there give us. So that's what we want. We want more women involved in the industry, and more women on the water fishing. And I think the more women that we have fishing, the better our industry is going to be, and the more protected our species and everything is going to be. So keep doing what you're doing. Don't let anyone ever tell you that you can't do it. And I'm happy to help you out in any way I can.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Did you have another question? Thank you, Tony, very much. Let's all give him a
We'll
big
see you
hand.
guys later. I'm going to sign off. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony, because we're going to get next to the raffle drawing. Ha ha.
All right. And contact me with that, Betty, and I'll get you the code and all that.
All right. Thank you. Thanks,
All right.
Tony. Okay, so now I'm going to share the screen. I'm going to give a shout out to our sponsors. Let's see. I'm still working on it. Let me try it again.
Betty, you scrunch your nose like I do when I can't see.
I know, I'm trying to see where, let me try this one more time. Where did screen share go? Oh, they're working on it. Okay, let me go up to the top here.
Hey, Betty, while you're doing that, any of you women that are on this Zoom call, I'm going to sign up for the trip in Islamorada Sailfish tournament, but I don't have anybody else. So if anybody wants to go, I'll meet you there.
It'll be a lot of fun because last year, the last couple of years, our gals from Ladies Let's Go Fishing, they had like 3 girls on the boat that never had released a sailfish, and first year they were tied for first place, and the second year they took first place. So let's see. Tell me if can you see my screen? Everybody nod. You can see it. Okay, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, and that's because without them, there would not be a Ladies Let's Go Fishing because we work year round. So you can see we've got Mercury, Fish Florida. If you buy the Fish Florida tag, their money goes towards educational programs and conservation. And there's links to all these on our website. We've got Penn, Magic Tail Trailers, Power Pool, and then go to the links. And we have our annual sponsors, and they provide items. A lot of you may have been to our fundraisers or bid on them online. It's a great way to start your fishing tackle collection and, get a deal and then learn what you need to go fishing. And then here's our top donors. And we've got Yeti, who's one of our sponsors for our prize tonight. And we've got Pelagic and then Ingle, and then also our patron sponsors. So when you have choices, please make them your preference. Okay, so now let me go to the drawing. Okay, so here's how this works. Y'all can see it? Okay, so when you buy, say, 12 tickets, I put each one, it's a bit of work, but I'm happy to do it. And I'm really glad and fortunate, thank everybody who bought tickets to help us achieve our mission. But you can see, I think Mary Deneen was the first one to buy 12 tickets. So each one of them is an individual entry. And that's sort of how it goes. And then this is a random generator. I have no control over it. And so next, we're going to pull for, you have great odds. And remember to, we do have these online fundraisers, and, a lot of them go for minimum bids. So they're deals for you. Okay, so I'm going to start with the top prize. And this is a certificate for hotel stay, up to $5,700 value. It's for 7 to 10 nights, up to 3 rooms in Antigua, on the Caribbean or Panama. And you do have to, though, cover the meals per person and taxes only, because they're all inclusive. It's $100 to $300 per night per person, depending on your choice. Air and ground transportation is not included, but we know ladies that have won this and met other people that spent like $500 a night to be in the same resort. So I'm going to roll the dice here. Let's see. Let me move it over. Let's see. Hold on one second. Begin the giveaway. That's what I'm going to do. Okay. So, result of round 1. Okay, so it rolled. See where everybody is in different order is Marianne Deneen, and that was her 12th ticket. So Marianne, you won that certificate. Now, if you don't think you're going to use it, you can pick something else, or you can take the certificate. It's worth up to $5,700. Are you cool with it? Nod your head or say something.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I just got an Antigua trip, so I'd like to put it back in the till and go for something else.
Okay. Well, you were a first winner, so you can pick any of the prizes.
I don't know the other prizes, to be honest with you.
We have the Yeti cooler, the $150 pelagic gear, two $50 gift cards for Frog Togs, a Hobie Mariposa floating sunglasses.
I'll do the 150 gift certificate,
Okay.
please.
Okay, so then I'm going to draw again for the first prize. Next round, Sue Graves. Okay, Sue Graves won that one, and she's not here. So she's the winner. Okay. For some reason, if she doesn't want it, I'll keep this round open. Okay, so next is Yeti Cooler Tundra. You either get the 35 hard cooler, or you can choose a Yeti Hopper Flip 8 or 12 soft cooler, and it's shipped to your door. Okay, so the next round is for the Yeti cooler. You guys see that? Helen Kelly, congratulations. Okay, she's not here, but I'm going to put her name down. Because, you can win. One time we had a lady that bought like a couple rounds of 12 tickets, and she won like 3 items. Okay, so next is two $50 gift cards for Frog Togs, rain gear, and accessories. And we really love Frog Togs. Their stuff really keeps you dry. Next round. First person is Shauna Bloom. Now, Shauna Bloom, that was her 12th ticket. Are you here, Shauna? Okay. So I wish you all could win, but I buy a lot of raffle tickets, and sometimes I win, sometimes I don't. So the next one is for the Hobie sunglasses. And these are called Mariposas. And it's amazing because they float. But the rims are not any thicker than regular sunglasses. So anybody, if you ever lost a pair of expensive sunglasses overboard, you will appreciate this. It looks good on me too, doesn't it? Oh well, I'm not in
Yes.
I'm not in the till. So let's see who wins that. Put my glasses on again. Okay, so Sue Graves. Sue Graves won the sunglasses. All right. Okay, well, congratulations to all our winners. And you see it's very fair. And she bought a bunch of tickets and she won twice in a can. So I hope you be back for our next raffle. Who knows, we might have one before the end of the year. All right, so right now thank you for attending this event. Did you enjoy it? Because I sure did.
Thanks, Betty.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this open for a minute. Let me find this here. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording. Let's see. Stop. Okay. Yeah, and I'm going to leave it open if you all want to talk to each other for a few minutes. I don't know. I'm going to change the view to gallery so you can see everybody. Oh, Shauna is here. You got to be excited. Congratulations. I'll get with all the winners tomorrow. Because Shauna, I can send you the certificate codes and tell you how to use them. And you have to use them by the end of the year. Congratulations.
Woo! I'm so excited.
Yeah, so we had two of the people on here that won some things. But does anybody want to introduce themselves or talk to the other ladies?
Well, it's actually Shanae. I know it looks like Shauna, but it's actually Shanae.
Oh,
And
That's
and
all
I
right.
work at a really cool place called
But I'll-
411 Marine,
To be okay.
but I'm not a very good fisher
Trying to
girl.
do it, okay? Okay, thanks.
Somebody's not on mute. I can't hear the other people.